A 6-foot creature crawling out of a toilet? Something with a giant eye rising out of mud? A 10-foot predator buried beneath the ocean floor that drags fish into the sand? A spider so fast it seems to teleport out of the ground? And a sewer blob made of thousands of writhing worms? These are strange creatures filmed emerging from underground. Well, what in the hell is that thing? This video comes from a Malaysian couple who came home to this nightmare scenario right in front of their own bathroom. Zulhanef Anip and his wife Puteri spotted this massive eel-like thing slithering across the floor after it had crawled straight out of their toilet. The couple managed to film the whole thing. It was roughly 6.5 feet long, with a surprisingly small head attached to an unusually thick, heavy body. It didn't look like any normal snake you'd find in the area, but Anip had a theory on how a monster that size ended up in their house. I think the creature grew up inside the pipeworks connected to the toilet bowl, because I've checked and there is no entry point for it to have got inside. It was about 2 meters long with a very fat, thick body. I'm not sure if it was a snake or a kind of tidal creature from the swamp. Its head was very small and it had a short tail, which did not look like a snake, end quote. Instead of destroying the thing, they stuffed it into a sack and carried it off to a local river. Figured it likely wandered in from the flooded areas surrounding their property. My house is surrounded by paddy fields, so it may have originated from there, Anip said. Tourists on a river cruise in Queensland, Australia ended up coming across something straight out of a monster movie while passing a mudflat. Footage catches this dark, ugly head thing with a wide mouth and like an eye bulging out of the mud before it slowly slides back down into its lair. The cruise operators at Solar Whisper Daintree River Crocodile and Wildlife Cruises posted the video online. Clearly just as baffled as everyone else, writing, either a miniature whale, a mussel, or an alien. Don't ask me. 1 minute he was there, the next he was gone, they said. People in the comments immediately tried to figure out what they were looking at. One guy commented, don't think it's a lungfish. Unless it's a very deep hole, looks more like a big mussel pippy type thing. What the hell's a pippy? Anyway, another viewer asked, underwater monster? The cruise staff eventually guessed it was probably just a mud skipper, a very unusual fish that's native to swamps and mudflats across the Indo-Pacific that can actually move around and breathe out of water. But given how bizarre it looked on camera, no one on board was totally convinced. This next creature may not be that scary to us, but I mean, if you're this poor fish, yeah, pretty terrifying. One of the strangest creatures you can find hiding underground is the Bobbit Worm. Calling it a worm almost feels like a technicality. These things can grow to around 10 feet long. They spend most of their lives buried beneath the ocean floor, and they only leave their head exposed while they wait for something to swim past. And then without warning, the worm launches itself forward and grabs its prey with a set of enormous razor-sharp jaws. The attack can happen so quickly the victim barely has time to react. What makes them especially creepy is how little of the animal you normally see. Most of its body can be buried beneath the sand, leaving you with what looks like a small, harmless creature sticking out of the sea floor. But underneath is a massive predator that can disappear completely back into the sediment. These things also have 5 antennae around their head that help them detect movement. The jaws are probably the worst part, which deliver a powerful bite that slices through smaller prey. It can even inject venom that helps subdue what they've caught. Encounters with divers are very rare, and luckily, I mean, they're just not big enough to drag a person down, but the same can't be said for the poor fish who have to live around what are basically the sandworms from Dune. Is this the scariest spider in the world? Look at the speed. I mean, that is insane. It looks like the video's missing frames. Like there's no spider there, and then less than a millisecond later, it appears. Like it did the instant transmission from Dragon Ball Z. What you just saw was a Ravine trapdoor spider, which spends most of its life underground, hidden inside a burrow that it seals with a hinged door made from dirt, silk, and debris. From above, there may be almost nothing to see. The spider waits beneath the surface with the trapdoor closed, listening for vibrations of anything walking by. When the prey gets close enough, it suddenly just bursts out of the entrance, grabs it, and drags it straight back underground. It's like what you just saw there. The whole attack can happen in the blink of an eye. The spider barely needs to leave its hiding place. What makes these spiders especially creepy is just how well their burrows are hidden. They're incredibly difficult to spot unless you know where to look. This one makes my skin crawl. So in 2009, a camera sent into a sewer beneath Cameron Village in Raleigh, North Carolina, found something that looked like it belonged in like a gory 80s sci-fi horror movie. The camera came across a huge pinkish brown red mass hanging inside of the sewer. It was moving, like pulsing and contracting, almost like the entire thing was one giant living organism. It is seriously disgusting. It looks like some kind of enormous blob has taken over the pipe, with strands of it stretching across the wall. People started calling it the sewer monster, and for a while, nobody seemed to have a clue what they were actually looking at. Eventually, biologists came up with a much less exciting, but arguably even a weirder explanation. The blob was most likely made up of huge numbers of tiny tubifex worms, also known as sludge worms, that had all tangled together. As the worms moved and contracted, the entire mass appeared to like breathe and crawl as one giant creature. So it wasn't actually a sewer monster hiding beneath North Carolina, depending on your definition of monster, that is, but it was actually thousands of worms packed together into one enormous pulsating blob living inside the sewage system. This next video comes out of the Manchester sewer system, captured by a robot used for maintenance. Did you catch that? Here it is slowed down. Something, or more than one thing, dashes past. We see what looks like a pair of long tails. It passes way too fast to make out any other details. Some commenters think it looks like a small reptilian creature, but the more grounded explanation, a pair of rats. Large ones, mind you. There are also a lot of comparisons in the comments to Splinter from Ninja Turtles, but like the British version. This is the giant Gippsland earthworm, one of the largest earthworms in the world. They can reach around 10 feet, and they spend almost their entire lives underground in the Gippsland region of Victoria, Australia. Unlike ordinary earthworms, these things live in deep burrows that can extend several feet beneath the surface. They move through the soil by pushing their bodies forward and expanding and contracting their segments, and because their underground tunnels can contain water, they're adapted to living in very wet soil. Heavy rain can cause their burrows to flood, forcing the worms to come to the surface, and that's when people occasionally get to see just how large they actually are. They're also extremely fragile despite how big they are. Giant earthworms like this have no legs, lungs, or hard skeleton, and their skin has to remain moist so they can absorb oxygen. They can live for several years, but they grow really slowly, 023 to 030. Yes, that thing is real. The Japanese giant salamander can grow to more than 5 feet long, making it one of the largest amphibians on Earth. And it spends most of its life hidden in the cold, fast-moving streams of Japan. They're almost completely aquatic. Their bodies are built for life in dark water. You probably don't need me to point out that these are pretty strange looking animals. Oddly cute, but strange. Their eyes are tiny and their mouths stretch across most of the front of their heads. They're also nocturnal, and they spend much of the day hiding beneath rocks, inside crevices, along the bottoms of streams, so encounters with them on land are pretty rare. When one leaves the water, its short legs have to carry that enormous flattened body across the ground, so it just isn't really ideal for them. There have been several videos of giant Japanese salamanders turning up outside their usual habitat though, including this footage of one found along the Kamo River in Kyoto. And that has been the video. I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next one.